Hi, and welcome to Gracefield Chats. I'm your host, Aubrey Goldbeck. I'm a dietitian and author on a mission to help you ditch shame and find grace. This is a series of webinars aimed at doing just that. Each week I have a conversation with a different guest, and we try to uncover the lies we believe as women about our bodies, about ourselves, and about food, and replace them with truth found in the gospel. I hope you guys benefit from these episodes, and if you enjoy them, please subscribe. All right. Hi, everyone. If this is your first time ever attending a Gracefield chat, you came because you know the lovely Brianna. These are a series of webinars I've been doing with different intuitive eating and HAES practitioners who also have a faith journey or are believers. And so the point of these webinars is just to kind of dismantle some lies that we tend to believe. I mean, I think everyone in our culture believes them, but especially lies we believe within the church. So I'm so excited to have Bree on here. I met her through Instagram. How do people meet people these days, I guess? And I have just loved following her ever since I clicked that button. She's always a light, and I love her insight into the therapy side of things. So today, we are going to be talking about how to cultivate body acceptance in our here and now bodies. And I know this is like, Bree, your entire, this is like your everything. So we're going to try to keep it short and not do a disservice to any of Bree's clients. It'll be 30 minutes, and then we'll leave the last 10 minutes for your guys' questions. That being said, you can ask them at any time throughout the webinar, and then we'll be able to see them at the end. So, Bree, why don't you just tell everyone a little bit about who you are, what you do, and maybe your journey or a short snippet of your journey with intuitive eating and HAES.
Sure, absolutely. So for those of you who follow me, you know that I am a licensed mental health counselor. I work in the state of New Jersey. I am also an eating disorder recovery and body image coach. And I have an Instagram page, Body Image with Bree. And I found Health at Every Size and intuitive eating while working in eating disorder recovery, but not in the beginning of it. It was like the end as I was transitioning out. The last dietitian that I was working with, she had mentioned Chrissy Harrison's podcast. And when I heard it, I always, my little joke is like, it was like a second come to Jesus moment where I heard it and I was like, oh, this is everything that I have believed and more. Like this has given words to what I thought didn't have words. So that's a very, very shortened version of my story. I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
If there's anything else you really want to know.
I love that. Yeah. I love the second coming to Jesus moment because I really felt like that too. It was like, oh God, this like everything clicks now. Like, thanks, yeah. So I totally resonate with that. So I've been saying HAES, and you rightfully so said health at every size, because I know not everyone like walks around saying these terms.
When I was like, I had to Google what HAES was, and everyone just kept saying HAES, and I was like, what the heck is HAES? And so I had to Google it, and I'm like, oh. And I think also in your profession as well, we just use a lot of acronyms for stuff, and people are like, what's that? So yeah. I tried not to do that because I don't want to seem like, oh, she's the therapist that uses all of the acronyms for things.
Yeah. No, totally. It's like when I see millennial, which I guess I am a millennial, but trying to separate myself, millennial like text abbreviations. Yeah. And I'm like, I have no idea what that means. I'm so not hip. But with health at every size, how do you, can you just give us like a definition of that, or your definition of that?
Absolutely. And I actually, I wrote down a definition to give you because I wanted it to just be like pointed. So what I wrote down, that health at every size is the belief that behaviors contribute to health without the focus on body weight, shape, or size. Right. So it's a weight neutral approach and focusing on the habits rather than weight loss or weight manipulation.
Yes, I love that. Very boiled down and to the point. And right. So we see this a lot, the confusion of, is it healthy at every size? And kind of, can you talk to the difference between that?
100%. So no, it's not healthy at every size. I wrote this down too, and this was taken from a post. I should have written who had said it, but it said, "Thin healthy people, thin unhealthy people, fat healthy people, fat unhealthy people, all worthy of dignity, care, and respect."
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's where our faith and health at every size really come together. And you can be like, oh, this fits with everything I know in my heart, which is all people are worthy of respect. All people are loved. Yeah. And it's not just, and I think like, we sneakily like think that only thin people are worthy of being loved, or only thin people
Yeah,
are worthy of, and or if, even if we don't think that, that's how our culture treats it. So that is, I'm glad you brought that point up. As far as your journey with health at every size and maybe body acceptance, how did that relate to your faith? Or kind of, I know you said it was like a second coming to Jesus moment, but how did
yeah,
you, like, how did that click or mesh in your heart and your mind?
for sure. So one of my favorite questions that people ask me is like, what made body acceptance click for you? And it's funny because I'm like, it didn't click. It took years of I was in therapy for 3 years dealing with my own body image issues. And even after that, so I had been in therapy, and then it was after that I'd heard about health every size. And so I think the reason I also call it like a come to Jesus moment is because I was ready to receive it. Like at
Mhm.
that point, I was like, oh, okay, yes, like that is it. That is what I believe. And so, not to like play too much into semantics, but I thought it might be interesting to read like the definition of what, right? So what body image is. I forgot to
Mhm.
share this in the beginning as well. I this semester I am teaching Introduction to Eating Disorders at a college in New York State. And so one of the things we talked about was body image. And so the definition of body image is how you see yourself when you look in the mirror or when you look at a picture of yourself. And many of us have these belief systems about ourselves starting at an early age. The definition of acceptance is the action or process of being received as adequate or suitable. So, a word that I actually like to use even more than body acceptance is body satisfaction,
Mhm.
which involves feeling comfortable and confident in your body and recognizing that physical appearance says very little about one's character and value as a person. So, with all of that, right, not playing too much into semantics, my own journey was that I always say I fell into eating disorders on accident, because even though I've lived life in a larger body, I never had an eating disorder. It was not something that I ever identified with, and would in my life have had to argue with doctors about, because of being in a larger body. It was presumed that I was just overeating. And I'm like, no, I'm not. And so when I went to graduate school, I needed an extra internship, and so I got an opportunity to work at an eating disorder recovery center, and started running body image groups and running meal support. And so my own belief systems were highlighted being in that place, confirmed what I had already known of not having an eating disorder, but also being like, yeah, but sometimes I'm just really weird around food. Or, I love my body, but I'm not in love with my body, if that makes
Mhm.
sense. And so being in therapy really highlighted for me how much I even just hid my body hatred, which is what I would call it. Because it was like, well, I don't hate my body, but I would change this, and I don't like this, and I can't do this. And there were all these like laundry list of things that I felt like until my body was a certain size, I can't fulfill this. And so my therapist at the time, she told me she would diagnose me with depression in the area of my body because of how much disdain I had for it, which now I guess I would probably put more under the realm of body dysmorphia, and right, this perceived flaw, which I went back and forth with in my head, because society does tell me that there's something wrong with my body. So it's not necessarily a perceived flaw, but yet I believed that my body was the thing that kept me from finding my future husband, was the thing that would make people think I was not qualified in my place of work, was the thing that would make me not be able to travel or to pursue my passions or to pursue things that I love, like dancing or any of these things. And that until I had the body that society deems as acceptable, that's when I would be qualified. And if bringing in faith into this, I always knew or always believed that God loved me. That was never, I never questioned that. I feared that humanity and society wouldn't love me.
Mm-hmm.
And that really, like, I had to wrestle through that, you know, what if no one loves me at this size? And really having to wrestle through that, because it's like, that's not true. I have friends, I have family, I have trusted, clients that love and adore me. So it was a lie that I was believing, but it had given it so much life that I was like, what if this is true? What if they find me out and it turns out that it's true? So
Yeah. Uh, First of all, there's like 10 things I want to highlight that you just said. So now I'm like trying to
there
wrap
was
my
a lot.
brain. I love the idea of body satisfaction, as opposed to body acceptance, and being able to, I took this body image course, Marcy Evans,
Yeah.
and they were talking about how body image was processed in like 9 different areas of our brain, and how we
Mm,
couldn't even like that's why it's so hard to comprehend, because it's not just about that our actual body's physical appearance. It's
wow.
about how we perceive it, and how we feel connected to it, and how we feel even connected to other people, which you
Mm,
sort of highlighted in there of like, hey, that fear of I won't be loved by, either a romantic partner or even just other people in general. So I love that idea of satisfaction. And I don't want to discount, people's
yeah.
experience of it is, some things are harder when you're in a larger body, and there is there are biases and prejudice within like workplaces and things like that.
Mhm.
And that's very real. But I love that you were able to kind of see like the good things, and that God does give good gifts to all of his
Mhm.
children.
Mm.
Um, Even in the midst of us having to live in this world that's not the best sometimes. Um,
And
but
I think too,
yes,
I wanted to highlight as well that uh, it's not even that I was afraid people wouldn't love me, but that I would miss out on opportunities, or that I would not be taken seriously in my field. And the other thing, I don't know, are you familiar with imposter syndrome?
yes.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't
Yeah.
know, right, it's that concept of anytime you're about to do something or in your field and you start thinking like, who do you think you are? Like, how dare you? Right? It's these
Mhm.
messages. And I always believed it about my body. And I also wanted to highlight too quickly that even like once I overcame that, even in the area of my body, those thoughts didn't go away, right? Then it became, well, you are not, you haven't been practicing health at every size for that long. So how are you qualified to talk about it? Or the laundry list of things. And so those imposter syndrome thoughts also could be, thoughts from the enemy, right? That those
Mhm.
lies, he's not going to throw something at you that is like, oh well, that's not a true and relevant thought. It's going to be like, wow, that could be true, and that hits me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that it's like you move on from, you said you were waiting, or you were kind of like, well, I won't be able to get this if my body doesn't change, or if like I'm perceived this way. And kind of, I wrote in the Instagram post the other day about that feeling, which is like, hey, I just need to change this about myself. Or it could even be with our work. Like, I just need to have 3 years of experience, X years of experience, and then I will have made it. And then people will respect me.
Mhm.
And then you just keep waiting to live. And it keeps us paralyzed from doing what we're called to do. So, yeah, I think there's always lies we're going to have to combat. And even when we move through the body image, when we feel like we're in a better place with our, it can be something else. But tell
Right.
me, I know I didn't write, I didn't tell you I was going to ask this question, but tell
Okay.
me a little bit about how you feel like as you worked through, as you've done some of this work and came to a better place with your body, how maybe God showed up or how he's been able to use you and kind of how those lies have come to be. You've seen them not be true.
For sure. So, and I always share this with people too, that going to school for therapy, I always joke that if nothing else, it was the best psychotherapy of my life. That it was 3 years of intensive, like I was required to go to therapy, but then you're also in these classes that are challenging your core beliefs, and you have to. I'll never take my clients somewhere where I haven't gone myself, and so I think in the beginning of my program, I still very much believed the lie that, okay, like I need to get my butt in shape and I need to change my body, and this is what is the best thing for me. And so I've shared this before, that when I was seeing my therapist, and I told her that I want to be healthy. So she said, "Can you define what that means?" And I said, "Well, I want to make exercise a daily habit, and I want to make sure that I'm eating balanced." And she said, "Okay, so then you're healthy." And I was like, "No, no, no, no. I also need to be fit." She was like, "But that's not what you just described as healthy." She was not health in every size at the time. So I was like, "Man, that was so good." And looking back, I'm like, how did she even know? Right. And so there
Yeah.
was sort of this, I don't know the word. I want to say like just sort of uh, these blinders on, where I was just like, nope, this is what is good and right. This is healthy, and this is what I need to do. And I never challenged the thought of, can I pursue health without focusing on my weight? And even when I mean, I still did several diets after that at that point, still thinking, that it was healthy. And so by the end of my time of working with her, I definitely had grown in the area of my body image, but I still felt that insecurity. And I don't even know if I remember the question at this point, but I'm just going to keep going. And
Okay,
then you
keep going.
you could you could pull me back. And oh, now I'm insecure. Do you remember what the question was?
I'm insecure. So I was just talking about how did God show up and
Gotcha up.
disprove some of those things you were believing, like about
Got
your
it.
career or about, your friends and things like that.
Perfect. Okay, so I was on track. So I remember even before learning about health at every size, I vowed that I wanted to make peace with my body, right? That I was like, even if I can't love it, even if I still feel uncomfortable in my body, I still want to show up, and I don't want to be at war with my body anymore. And it's not that I had a full change in things. There were still things that were really hard for me, like taking pictures, or, today I've showed up on this video without makeup. I don't know if I would have ever done that, at that point. Um, I still had these insecurities. And what I never realized was how intrinsically correlated body image and self-esteem are. And I always separated out the two. And that fear of feeling like I'm going to show up to a room and somebody's going to call me out and be like, well, how will you know what you're talking about because you're in a larger body? That fear isn't there anymore, because
Mm.
now I know that my body doesn't define me, that is not what qualifies me or unqualifies me. And in fact, if somebody were to say that, I would feel sad for them, because they actually believe that that's the thing. And honestly, I mean, I've worked in a lot of settings, and that's never happened. Nobody's ever like disqualified me because of my body. And so had I let that fear keep me from pursuing my dreams, I would have missed out on a lot of jobs, a lot of amazing opportunities. And so my favorite thing to say is that I didn't have to change my body to change my beliefs. I had to change my beliefs to feel more comfortable in my body. Like the only thing that changed was that I stopped believing that being in a large body meant that I was somehow less than, was somehow unqualified, or somehow, a second class citizen. And that if somebody else believes that, that's their own bias, and that's on them. That's for whatever them to work out. And especially if they have kids, like, it usually makes me sad for them.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't take it personally anymore. And so
Yeah.
I think that if I don't know if I would have seen that when I started my program. I think that through this process, I mean, God really showed me how connected to my self-worth my body image was. And I remember it was very shortly after learning about health at every size, a friend of mine was like, you're just glowing with confidence. And I was like, I am. Like, I feel it. I feel there's a difference now. And the only thing that changed was my belief about what my body represents.
Yeah. Uh yes, that is like I just wish I love how you're saying like self-esteem and body image are so tied together.
Yeah.
And you know, coming at it from like even the biblical perspective, we have verses that say like be transformed by the renewing of your mind.
Mm,
So that just to me, like when I read that after all this work, it was like, yes, like our beliefs, the way we believe about ourselves, about God,
mm,
changes everything. Like changes our self-esteem, changes then the things we go do, and think about all the impact that you've made and I've seen you make, that would never have been had if you'd been kept in that limiting belief. So yeah, I love that, and I think it's completely truth. And I could go on and on, but I think like soul health, right? I talk about this a little bit in the book because it's the only place you can rant about your beliefs like for 200 pages. But about how your soul health goes along with your body health, and it's often
mm,
first, and that's our mind, and our beliefs. And so I just love that. And I'm so happy that you came to those new beliefs and you're doing the work that you're doing. And I know you
thank
have,
you.
so I'm going to kind of transition here. I know, because I know you have a 6-week course going on like
Yeah.
right now, which
Yeah.
we'll talk about at the end, because I'm hoping you're going to do more and more people can
Mhm.
get involved. Teaching about body satisfaction, body image. And I'm wondering if you can just share maybe some of the most helpful tips, for people who are just struggling to, um, yeah,
Yeah.
start to appreciate their bodies, even just move from that hate phase to like neutrality.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so first I just want to say thank you so much for your kind words that mean so much to me. And ever since I like connected with you on Instagram, I mean, we connected via Instagram, but then I was like, man, I'm just drawn to her and to her posts. And
Oh,
so I appreciate that.
I feel the
Um,
same way.
Good. uh, so in terms of how to help people, it's funny because I I made a post today, right? I can't sell you body acceptance in a 30-second spiel, right?
Mhm.
I can sell you a diet, I can sell you an exercise plan. I can't sell you body acceptance. I can't sell you body satisfaction. It takes time. And that sucks. I hate that it takes time.
Yeah.
I think I would say it probably took about 3 years for me. And I remember even after learning so much about myself and wrestling through body image, and then I would be doing really well, and then all of a sudden I would go back to that place, and I was like, I
Mhm.
never learned any of it. And my therapist was like, well, that's a little all or nothing. And I'm like, but that's what it feels like, right? And it wasn't until I was out of therapy and I was in a situation where I was like, whoa, that would have ruined me, and it didn't. Like, there's the growth. And so if I give any advice to people, I mean, first and foremost, I would say stop hiding under the guise of health, because I did it for years, right? And it was like, well, I don't hate my body, and I literally remember saying it. I was like, I don't hate my body, because there are days where I look at myself and I'm like, oh, okay, we look good, and it was great, but then the statements that went after that didn't match that. It's, I won't do this. I won't wear this. I won't go here. I won't travel. There were a laundry list. I won't go on dates because my body. And so it's really easy to hide under the guise of health. And so it, combined with that, of really becoming aware of your self-talk. How do you speak to yourself? And I think that if we really gave a microphone to our self-talk, would we want other people to know that that's how we spoke, right? And would you speak to your child or your best friend in the same way? And as I started becoming aware of my own self-talk, I would go like, yikes, like I can't believe I just said or thought that thing about myself. And I knew that in wanting to make peace with my body, I was going to have to stop doing that because it wasn't helpful. And so sort of along the lines of intuitive eating, right? How can I become critical? I'm sorry. How can I become observant without being critical? How can I be an observer rather than a judger? So I can highlight, you know what? I'm feeling a little uncomfortable in my body today, but that does not make me a bad person. That does not make me less than. I am still deserving of love and care. And it's funny too, because I remember actually a while ago I had run a body image group, and my co-leader, she had the group do affirmations, and they were not happy. They're like, that doesn't help me. And I feel that though. I'm like, yeah, I feel you. That it's like, I don't like saying, oh, you say you hate your body, say I love my body.
Yeah.
Okay, then don't start with love, right? Maybe just start with kindness. Maybe just start saying, thank you, body, that you get me to a job every day. Thank you, body, for carrying my children. Thank you, body, for digesting my food. Whatever the case may be, maybe love is a hard place to start. So maybe just start with kindness.
Yeah. Yes, I totally agree with the fact that that was kind of a trick question, because this is a long, it's like when people ask me, just tell me what I should and shouldn't eat. I'm like, well, um, there's a long chat for that.
Right.
But I love the first step, because I think that's one of the most important steps of just bringing awareness to how you're talking to yourself. And even awareness, like what you said earlier, of the fact that maybe our body image issues aren't necessarily so tied to the shape or weight or size of our bodies, and more tied to our self-esteem. So I think that's one of the most important steps, to be aware and then be kind, and start to shift to be kind and thankful when we can. Not always feeling it, right? Yeah. No one's
And
ever
it's
like
not.
feeling.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, no one's, just for anyone who hasn't heard this, it's like no one's ever, the goal of body image work is not to always like look in the mirror and be like, oh my gosh,
Oh
I am
yeah.
so hot, I love myself. Like it is like, it's just to not think. I heard someone say, it's to think of your body less, or it's to think, to stop letting that inhibit you
Yeah.
from doing what you need to be doing in life.
I could throw out another word too, right? So Jess Baker actually talks about body liberation. And I actually wrote down the definition of liberation. It's the act of setting someone free from imprisonment, slavery, or oppression. And now that I am free from these this body prison, and not from my body, but just from these thoughts about my body, I realize how much I thought about my body, and how much I thought about food, and how much I thought about my morality connected to that of, oh, I'm not good because I didn't do this or I did this. And now that's like, it's not that every day I'm like, oh, I love my body. Oh, this at like I have some acne today because I'm hormonal. But even regardless, it doesn't matter. I have some acne, and it's like I'm not like, oh, I love my acne. Like, yeah, like that's not body
Yeah.
that's not body positivity. It's not body acceptance. It's that it doesn't matter. That it's like, yeah, okay, I'm not perfect, and this is me, and it also doesn't bother me anymore. And I remember
Mhm.
even I was showing somebody, they were like, oh, you should hold the camera up. And I was like, I don't care if you see my double chin, because
Yeah.
it's even like a picture or a video, it's a moment in time. And if that's, what you choose to focus on when you see me, which you probably isn't, it's what, you choose to focus on when you look at yourself. And
Mhm.
we are more than a picture. We are more than an image. We are, we, it's just so limiting. And so, yeah, I agree with that when you have, when you have body liberation, it matters less to you what your body looks
Yeah.
like. If that makes
I
any
love
sense at
that.
all.
Yes. Anything about, yeah, setting yourself free to focus on other things. And things that matter more to you. So I could talk forever with you. I have loved this conversation.
Me too.
But go ahead and share if you have one. Did you have a Bible verse or kind of any truth that, I don't know, speaks to you about this topic?
Sure. So when I was, oh gosh, I was 19 or 20. I got a tattoo on my body, and I'm gonna show the verse. It's 1 Samuel 16:7,
Yeah, you
which
don't have to.
now that now I'm like, contextually, I don't know if it means what it does, but I'm gonna share it anyway. And so
Yeah.
it says, do not look at what man looks at, for while man looks at the outward appearance, the Lord looks at the heart. But it's like Samuel
Yeah.
talking to Saul, and he's talking about being short, and I'm like, I don't know contextually if that's what it means, but for me it meant that, God cares about inner beauty. God cares about who you are in the
Yeah.
inside, right? And like,
No.
God knows your
I love that.
character. You could be the quote unquote most beautiful person in the world, but God's gonna know your heart regardless. So I I laugh because I was like, I was 19. I don't know what did I know.
No,
But
I love it.
and then I had to learn the verse because people were like, oh, what does it mean? And I was like, hold on, I gotta look it up. But
Yeah,
if
yeah,
yeah, if I could give, just any insight, in just in terms of like my own relationship with God, it's that God God loves you as you are, right? And I remember feeling, this was something, I know we could talk forever, but just feeling like, I would feel badly that I didn't love the creation that God had made, right? That I have been, knit in my mother's womb, and I've been made in the likeness and image, the likeness and image of Him. But that no matter where you are in this process, that God loves you and that He is here for you. So
yeah.
I think that's
I love
helpful.
it. And yes, I think
Thanks.
that verse is totally applies because it's like people were disqualifying Samuel, and I haven't looked at
Yeah,
it in forever, but people were disqualifying
to
Samuel,
be
or he's
short.
afraid, not
Yeah.
Samuel, but that he
I don't
was
Saul. I
not.
don't
Yeah,
know.
sure. So same thing. We can believe that, like, yeah, no, I love that. And I think that's so true. It's, yeah, God loves you where you are, as you are. And He also understands like the pain and the struggle and the things we have to go through in this world. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, that's just kind of the state of this fallen world. But I think, yeah, He also understands when you're like, I don't like my body today, or whatever. But I love that. And so if anyone has any questions, right now we don't have any that have come in. People are being shy, but it's okay. You can always ask them. Um, you can always ask them of me and or Bria if you're open to it. I'm just like
100%.
assuming this for you.
No,
Okay.
absolutely.
Uh, okay. You can
I always
ask
answer
us
what I can.
on Instagram. Yeah, exactly. It's, um, and I will we will try to answer them within the week if they're asked pretty soon. And I will also tag any answers on the Facebook page when I repost it. But Bree, I have loved our time, and I don't want to leave without you sharing a little bit about where people can find you. I know you said it in the beginning, but say it again. And also maybe a little bit about that recovery, love, and care group that you have going on right now.
Sure, absolutely. So again, you can find me on Instagram at Body Image with Bree, and hopefully a Facebook page in the works, but not yet. So you can find me on my Instagram page. I am also a recovery, love, and care coach, and I specialize with eating disorder recovery, but I also specialize with body image. And right now, I have launched we're 2 weeks in to my 6-week body image support group, which, in hindsight, it really isn't a support group. It's much more than that. It's definitely, I would say, I had said it in the first day. It's kind of like a bra. It's more supportive than a support group. Like, it's not just like come and share your feelings, but I'm holding you. We're gonna work through these issues together, and it's been so much fun. It's my favorite time of the week. So I'm hopefully going to be doing some more programs like that, and then actually an actual just support group where people can drop in and process their body image issues. Because I think that even in the spirit of community, I think the hardest thing is to try to do this alone. So I know that a lot of times, people are like, oh, it's hard financially or whatever the case may be. And my encouragement is definitely, pray and see if, like you can allot for it, because it's hard to do this on your own. And sure, is it possible? 100%. But I think having a team of people is it's what I attribute to having healed, myself, right? Like having, not that I healed myself, but that I healed like individually. Like I have healed by having, a team in place, having community, having people to process with. So yeah, so right now we're going to be going into week 3 of our 6-week group. So I also do virtual individual coaching, and if you live in New Jersey, I can also do counseling as well. So if you're interested, you can email me at bodyimagewithbree@gmail.com, or you can message me on Instagram.
Awesome. So we lost visual contact of your beautiful face, but we
Oh
heard you.
no, I see you. That's so weird.
Oh, maybe not when I re-download, but I will include links to your Instagram page, and I'll include your email if that's okay with you on the repost. And yes, I cannot emphasize enough how much group work and community is so helpful. And I know that's a struggle sometimes when you're doing virtual, when you're doing virtual counseling. Like for me, some of my virtual clients, I want them to be connected more to a group like that. So, all right, Bree. Well, thank you so much. Thank you guys for being here. Yeah, and next week, if you're around, I'm gonna have one at 7 p.m. Central Time interviewing Taylor from Food Faith Fitness, and she is going to be sharing her own journey with eating disorder recovery, and then later disordered eating recovery, and kind of the 2 separate phases with that. So thank you, and I will catch up with you later.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.